the roads, but I think we're going to get started. My name is Samantha Nino. I'm the owner of Red Zest Design, and I'm going to help today during the Entrepreneur Meetup. I'm one of the volunteers for the Entrepreneur Meetup team. And today we have a special guest, Daren Klum. He's going to be presenting, but before Daren presents, are there any entrepreneur announcements that people would like to share? Open houses or special events happening in our community for entrepreneurs? Jim?
There's one in Ely tonight.
In Ely?
That's why he is dressed up.
Oh.
He dressed like that in Ely.
I'm going up there to help reinvent the community, so.
That's just a little bit. Fantastic, Jim.
One night.
Any other entrepreneur announcements?
Reminder, the idea competition application process is open, so get your applications in before the end of November so you can get the discounted rate of $99. So if you have questions, please contact me or Phil at the foundation. And I'll send this around if you're not on the email list and want to be added, or if you have interest in presenting, because I will call on you if you check that box.
Well, welcome again. Thanks for being here on this snowy morning in Bemidji, Minnesota, with the roads the way that they are. Again, Entrepreneur Meetup, this is the point, the purpose, why we're here, since I see some new faces. The why we're here is to connect with entrepreneurs and learn from each other and just have a support network as we go through this. Sometimes being an entrepreneur or a business owner, it's a very lonely position sometimes. And this is a group of people who can support each other and help ask questions or answer questions and be there when things are challenging. But today, our guest, Daren Klum, is an institution in technology arena. He's an inventor, a futurist who thrives in solving global challenges and developing new technologies. He has a growing list of 30 plus patents, in various stages that solve massive problems in data security, high-performance computing, and artificial intelligence. He's going to tell us a whole lot more. So please welcome Daren.
That sounded really important. That must be off LinkedIn. Well, first of all, thank you all for having me here today. And I love being around entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the ultimate risk takers. They're the crazy people that spend their hard-earned money to follow a dream. So any chance to be in front of people like that, sign me up. As kind of by way of introduction, as I was telling some folks earlier, I lived in Pequot Lakes, so I've kind of got a little bit of touch to this area. So I played hockey up here, and I was horrible. So, it's just great to be up here. And Jim Larson, who many of you know, is my attorney. So best money I ever spent was getting all my patents through him. But anyway, it's wonderful to be here. So I kind of have a little bit of a loose agenda. I like to make things conversational, so interrupt, ask questions, do whatever, because I want to make this about answering any questions that you have and making this about you. So by way of background, again, we'll go through that, but I went to college, Brown College, went to Mankato State University, University of Minnesota, so heavy tech experience. This guy is kind of how I started my career. I don't know if any of you remember War Games, but that got me on my career path. I wanted to be a hacker. But then spent many years working for a lot of really big companies. So been kind of through startup phase, Digital River, went public with that company, and then Sprint, Thomson Reuters, TW Telecom, heavy data center experience. So kind of been through the gamut in a number of different companies, different positions. So then we get to this slide. This has been 12 years of my life. Just incredible work, long hours, no sleep, stress. Many of you know what it's like to put your life on the line, and that's what I've done with these companies. So my first company, oddly enough, you can see a theme here. I started with hardcore computer. Now, I'm sure you can imagine going to market with a company by the name of Hardcore. When you call people up, they wonder what kind of business you're in. But the whole idea with that company was really building computers for people that live on computers, that work on computers, that are enthusiasts, people that really are passionate about the work they do in the digital world. And then that company morphed because unfortunately, or fortunately, we had to start in a consumer market with a very radical technology, and what we did is submerge electronics in liquid to keep them cool, eliminating the need for air conditioning in the world's data centers, which accounts to about 25 fully active nuclear power plants just to power the cooling of all the data centers in the world. So we had this novel idea, well, what would happen if we could get rid of all that wasted energy cooling all these data centers? So, so that's really what that company was about. So we grew up, changed names, turned into LiquidCool, and now our mission is to really eliminate all that wasted energy, which is a huge problem. And then you'll know my second company was to solve the data security problem, and I then built a company that told people to cram it. So bad marketing, but as you can see, the theme was the edginess of the consumer market required a different brand than the business markets, and so we took our security with cram and have now gone after enterprise as secured too, and we'll tell you a little bit more about what we do with them. So here's some of the inventions. I just thought it'd be kind of neat to show you a little bit of what I've done with my life, but some industry firsts that I've done. Developed the first smartwatch. So before iWatch, I was iWatching, and built a prototype and was trying to get that to market, and that kind of was my first major idea, and I realized the obstacles and how hard it would be to take that to market, so I kind of went a different direction and then followed my PC dreams. But then the first submersion PC, which also was the world's fastest PC when we launched, so that was another industry first. The first submersion rack-mounted server was something that we've been working on. The first drive delivery system to move data without the internet. The whole idea I had was what would happen if the internet could fit in your pocket, and with high capacity storage and some things that were happening, I realized that we just want content, we don't want connections, and we don't want all this other stuff, so maybe there's a way to do that, and so that's what really started CRAM. And then the first portable data center in a box is another cool thing we've been working on. And then what I've been working on most recently, which is protecting all of you from hackers. So that's been really, that's my life's work right now. And we've actually solved that problem. So, so this is the first iWatch. Not too pretty, but that was my prototype. What this prototype did basically was, the problem I was trying to solve is I was always in meetings and my phone would ring, and I didn't want to be the rude guy that would go like that, and I felt that just going like that would make a little bit more sense. And then also, if my wife called me at the grocery store, I could go, "What do you want?" And that's what that device was supposed to do. And so we built it, and we're going to go to the next phase and realize it was going to take probably about $100 million to make that happen. So we kind of said, we'll go in a different direction. So that led me to this. And one thing I'll say as an entrepreneur, and you all know this, you know, for those of you that are entrepreneurs, you have to follow your heart. Your heart will never let you go wrong, and the courage to follow your heart is, I think, what really separates a successful entrepreneur from one that's not, because you either are all in or you're not in, because, you know, pretending and just dipping the foot in the pool is not entrepreneurship. And so, you know, I think you'll see here that by really jumping in with both feet and never looking back is what it takes. And so when I got into the PC world and said, you know, I really want to eliminate this data center problem, I had to look at the problem that we were trying to solve and how to get there. Well, I can tell you that walking into the world's data centers and saying I'm going to submerge all of your computers in liquid they would say, you're crazy, that's never going to happen, no, too dangerous, it will leak, it will do all this, that, and the other, right? So you had to go into a market that could accept that technology, prove it, show that it works, get into the hands of high technical people to get them comfortable with the idea. And so we launched in the gaming market as hardcore, and you'll see the evolution on this slide of how we went from liquid cooling every component with hoses to full immersion using a 3M product, which is the second computer, this one right here. And then you'll notice this one, we went to soy oil, which was fabulous, and it glue in the dark, and it was just awesome, but it really smelled. So then we had to come up with a new solution using a fluid that we helped engineer called core coolant that was material compatible with circuit boards and a lot of other things, and didn't smell. So, and then that became the reactor. This reactor was really the flagship product that we started with hardcore. World's fastest computer. We did more than just dunk a bunch of stuff in liquid. We built our own motherboard. We put the first digital Dolby THX sound system in, so it was 130 decibel sound quality, the most powerful sound system ever put in a computer. Hot swappable drives. We put drives built into the motherboard. So I mean, all this crazy technology was built into this and was overkill, but we just really wanted to make a statement with submersion cooling that this is really the future. And then that led to our ultimate dream, which was this data center problem. And so this is the first product we built for that market, which was liquid blade, liquid submerged servers. And what we could do with that, and why we were the world's fastest server, is that we could overclock all the electronics without it catching on fire. So if you can imagine, all your computers that you have today are clocked at a certain speed, and you're only utilizing about maybe 30 to 40% of the CPU's actual horsepower, because the fan that runs on top of it can only handle so much heat. So the more that you throttle and put more energy to the CPU, the hotter it gets, and where fires can occur. If you can cool all that, you can get the maximum throughput of the CPU and not worry about it catching on fire. So anyway, that's what we did with that company. And then this was just the drive delivery system. So the idea with this was that you would get cartridges with all the stuff you want on it, and this little device would wirelessly connect into every device you have in your home, your TV, your iPads, whatever, and all the movies and entertainment would stream locally off of this device and wirelessly. If you're traveling, it can just go in your car. So if your kids want to continue watching Barney as you move to the minivan, you would be able to do that with this product. But we, unfortunately, when the security problem became so big, because there was a huge security problem in this product, which was, if I give you every movie of Disney, how do you prevent somebody from stealing them? And so that was the security, and so we took that security and moved it to the cloud and have done a little bit more to it, and that's what we're doing today. So that kind of leads to what I do today. So LiquidCool now is working with mega scale data center companies, like we've been talking with Google and Facebook about eliminating their heat and energy problem. So for instance, with Facebook, we can take their Altoona data center in Iowa, and we can reduce it by about 70% in size and eliminate, over $69 million of capital just in building a data center by eliminating all the air conditioning infrastructure. So huge cost savings, and the computers can literally go anywhere that you want to put them, indoor, outdoor, doesn't matter, they're fully sealed. So there's big military applications. So this computer to the left is a portable data center for the military. It can handle sand, dust, rain, anything you throw at it, snow. And then this is a data center design that we have that basically can fit in a C-130 aircraft carrier, or a plane, so you can fly a full data center out into the field anywhere in the world. Really cool technology. And then this one on the right is a prototype design for eBay that just shows ultra high density computing, because again, there's no fans, there's no air conditioning. You can just literally stack a bunch of stuff on top of each other because you can keep it cool. So really cool technology. So what I'm working on now is so what I'm working on now is, so we built a data security technology. I'll just give you a high level of what it does. So think of any data as a file. It's just a bunch of binary information. And what we do is we convert data into a random format. We shred it into little pieces. We randomize those pieces, encrypt them, and then randomly push them out all over the place. So some of the bits can go to Google, Microsoft, Amazon, could be little Timmy's basement, whatever, doesn't matter. And then as long as you can prove physically that you are who you are through some form of multi-factor authentication, that would be facial recognition, voice recognition. It doesn't, we're agnostic with authentication. You can then reassemble all those pieces that are all over the place. So a hacker can't find your information, number one. Number two, anything going over the internet is so scrambled and segmented and randomized that they could never do anything with what they capture. And then anything that sits at rest in the cloud is untouchable. So the whole idea is to, if you're using any cloud services, that you never have to worry again about being hacked. And so it's a really big deal. And so we're now working with Microsoft, so we're integrating our security into Microsoft's products. So if you're a user of Office 365, you can go get our email security app and protect your email from the prying eyes of the cloud and bad guys. And by the way, most people don't know this, so I have to give this as a public disclosure. If you put any data in the cloud, the people that run the cloud have the keys to access your data. So if you think you're secure, they can, and I'm not saying they do, but they can access your information. And so I believe we need to go to a world where you're all in control of your data and you can protect it. So anyway, so that's what I'm working on these days. So I want to get into kind of lessons I've learned in the journey, and maybe these will help, maybe they won't, but these are just things I found and have learned in some cases the hard way. Because I think one of the things as entrepreneurs, we're afraid to fail. And I can tell you failure is the best thing that ever happened to entrepreneurs, because when you fail at something, it just means that wasn't the right thing to do, and there's another path to go and to find. So the first thing, I always say, if by the way, just by way of hands, who here has a business running currently? Oh, wow, awesome. And who's thinking about starting a business? Anybody? Okay. So this will apply maybe to those, this first slide will apply maybe to those that are thinking of doing something. But the first thing I always say if you're going to start a business is find a problem to solve. And I say that, and it doesn't matter what business, if you're in retail, it doesn't matter if you're, you have to serve a customer and a problem and an unmet need that customer has, which is common sense, and anybody who, has done a business knows that. But the thing that I would add to that is that solve a big problem, because solving a mediocre problem or maybe a really small problem that has a really small limited market is not going to bring you success, but solving a bigger problem will ensure greater success, because the bigger the problem, the more the market, the more the opportunity, and the easier it will be for you to raise money and do all the things you need to grow a business. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I work with is, let's make sure you're solving the right kind of problem. And then the next thing is your problem a company? The problem that you're solving a company? Can you build a company with the problem you're solving, or are you a product? Because you have to define, is what you have something that can be a company, or is it just a product, because that's going to take you down a different path if you're just a product. And I give an example of the cocktail umbrella, because the guy that invented that is a millionaire, but it may not have been a company. It was probably a product, and brought it to a manufacturer, and then they sold it and distributed it. So I think you have to think in terms of what are you really, because that's going to define the path that you take with what you do with the idea. The other thing I learned is you can't do it alone. When I first started out, I was your quintessential lone wolf. I was in my basement, I was building prototypes. My wife hated me because I had a mess always on a table, and But I realized that for me to be successful, I couldn't do it by myself. And so I started to build a team. And what's really interesting is as you build your team, you have to really do a self-inventory and be honest with yourself of what you're really good at. Because for me, it was really hard to realize that maybe there were some things I wasn't really that good at, and I needed people that could fill in that void. And so, like in the case of starting with Hardcore, my first startup, I found my Woz, and he was an engineer, and he could do incredible things with CAD and bring to life the ideas that I had. And then he and I together could build them. And so, but he was a critical component. I couldn't have done it without him. And so I think in life you just have to find your Woz, or whoever that piece to complete you is. And it's no different with Secure 2. I have a wonderful partner, Mark, who is just with me through the long, lonely nights till 3 in the morning as we're coding and developing and doing the things that we do. And I couldn't do it without him. The next thing is that I would tell you is, you have to build something. I can't tell you how many times I meet with entrepreneurs that have a PowerPoint. And the first thing I tell them is, you know what, this is a really neat idea, but go build it. Or start building it, get to some kind of a prototype or some kind of something that's tangible that you can actually get your head around. Because once you actually can manifest that idea that you have and create something of value, suddenly it becomes real and it's not vapor, and you can actually raise some money around that. The next thing I've learned too is remarkable ideas spread. Now we all know what happened with Charlie Sheen, but if you look at what happened with him, his meltdown went so viral in the history of communications. There was nothing that was more talked about, shared, spread, and all of the Charlie-isms actually became an app where you could, get all of his little sayings. But his craziness was a wild idea, and that spread, and winning, you might remember that was, everybody was saying winning. So when you think of your startup, how do you get your idea to spread? And how it gets to spread is if it's a remarkable idea. You do something that's never been done before, something so unique and something so amazing. When I look at Bemidji, I'll give you an example of what you've done, which is a remarkable idea that's spreading, is look at this room. Look at this facility, look at the investment that you all make in coming together as a community, and that's a remarkable idea, and it spreads. And then as you have successes and it grows and it manifests, the next thing you know, this room of however many we have here today suddenly turns into, well, this room's too small, we got to get something bigger. And I've seen this happen. I mean, we were talking about Fargo earlier. I've just seen what's happened up with Fargo and what they've done, and that remarkable idea has spread. And so anyway, I just think that's a real important thing I've learned. The next thing, this is the hard one, you can't have a business without money. I mean, it's just the way it is. And so when you're starting up, I call it the 3 Fs because when you're first starting, you have friends, family, and fools. I mean, that's basically when you're a startup. Yeah, that's where you raise your money from. But then also you have levers as you're growing. You have debt, equity, and revenue, which are really your 3 sources of where you get your money. When I first started, we obviously did a lot of equity because it was friends, family, and fools. And then now we're at a point, like with Secure 2, where we're closing a $7 million debt round. And the reason is because I want to minimize the dilution, and I just need money to kind of scale and grow. So you have to think strategically about the money part, because this will be the hardest challenge you have as an entrepreneur, is making sure you constantly have your cash flow. And obviously the most ideal thing is revenue. I always tell entrepreneurs, if you're not selling on day one, you're going to fail. I mean, it's that simple. You gotta sell from day one. You gotta get the customers involved. You gotta build groundswell, and that comes from meeting people, sharing whatever it is that you do, and getting people excited about it. And then the last thing is, in this slide, is vulture capitalists. There is a place for VCs, and I just tell people that stay away from them as much as you can. There will be a time when you can use them, and there are fabulous people that are venture capitalists, and I know many of them. But make no mistake that when you take VC money, you are in a whole different ball game. The clock is ticking, and I've seen people that have taken that money and have lost their companies. And so, you just have to, just know that going into it. The other thing I would tell you is your network is your net worth. My sister wrote a book called Your Network is Your Net Worth. But it is so true. The people that you are friends with, the people that you align yourself with, the people you connect with will really determine your net worth. And so, just as the people and connections and friendships that are here, you all help one another, you build a community around each other, you support each other in good times and bad. If you have a business, maybe you all become customers. But it's this network of people and caring for other people and friendship that I really believe builds successful businesses. And so I can't stress that enough, but really good book from my sister. The next thing is this, is if you have been thinking of a business idea, this slide is for you because taking the leap is the single most difficult thing in the world. If you can imagine, I started Hardcore Computer with one baby, another on the way, and leaving a very lucrative business career in corporate America. And I feel this slide was me. It's the major leap. And I remember coming home and telling my wife that I quit my job because I could no longer, I couldn't do it anymore. I just had this thing I had to follow, and she just thought I was crazy. And she cried for a week and got over it. And she's been happy I've done it ever since. But that leap is really hard, but you got to do it. If you're on the fence and you're just one little toe in the pool, you're not going to be successful. Although I will say this: start your business when you do have income, because there's a lot of the early startup stuff that you can do while you're getting a paycheck. So I'm not just saying jump cold turkey into something and starve and go bankrupt. There's a gradual process, but you gotta prepare yourself for the leap and not just jump blindly and stupidly, but you have to have a plan of how are you going to have money, how are you going to have enough money to survive before you take the leap. But these are all preparation things and things that you can do. Like, I'll give you an example. I got LiquidCool to a point, or Hardcore to a point when I made my first jump, where I had gone through enough of the patent stuff. I'd paid for that with the money I was making on my day job, so I'd work all night on the hardcore stuff. And I got it to a point where I could now make money with it, and then I could make the jump. So you just have to judge that, but that leap is really hard. And then Sun Tzu, Art of War. You got a plan. If you want to be successful, you got to have a plan. You got to know where you're going. You got to know what you're doing, and you got to really think through it. And always think the worst case, because as human beings, I think, and I don't know, some people are maybe more pessimistic, but I'm an optimist, right? I always wear the rose-colored glasses. Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to be billionaires. And no, it never works out that way. You really have to go worst case and plan for the worst case. But the good news is, if you have a plan and you achieve those goals and milestones, you can have great success. My biggest failure in life so far as an entrepreneur is I was married to the technology, as you probably could tell from earlier slides. And it wasn't until I married the market that I really started having success. And so never underestimate the market. If you have a small business catering to people in Bemidji, know your market, know your customers, know what they want, ask them questions, become one with your customers, because they will tell you what they want. And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we get our aha, our great idea, and we're so blind on that idea that we forget a lot of times really what other people might want. And maybe if you did one little tweak, suddenly that's the recipe for a huge success. So anyway, that's one major thing I've learned. This one is another one, is focus. I see a lot of entrepreneurs try to boil the ocean, and I don't know if anybody's ever successfully boiled the ocean. So I think if you're going to go to war, you have to have a very focused mindset, and you have to build beachheads. So I kind of liken it, I've got my bayonet when I started my first company, and I jumped up on the beach, and I got to find a place for cover, and that's that first customer segment. That's the first group of people I can start talking to. Once you gain that success, you go to the next thing, and then maybe the next thing's a new product, because the market will tell you where to go. But that's been a real important thing for me. So some innovator truisms, just to kind of at least wrap up a little bit here. Find an idea to a really big problem. Understand that everything is possible if given enough time, money, and effort and resources. I've proven that. I mean, we've taken on some very impossible challenges, and just by doing it and going through the process, we were able to get there. And and don't give up. I mean, I always say when you become an entrepreneur, you got to throw the key of the lock to the exit door and just know that you can never go back. You commit, and because there'll be times when you want to quit as an entrepreneur, and I've had my moments. I mean, I've had moments where I had a $150,000 a month payroll I had to cover, and I had $50,000 in the bank to cover it. Those are the realities that you have when you're an entrepreneur, and they're very real and they're very hard. But if you approach them with integrity and honesty and passion, and you'll get through those times, and you'll be amazed at, I have so many stories of where you're up against the wall, and out of nowhere, this bizarre phone call comes with an investor that says, hey, I've heard about what you're doing, here's some money. You just have to trust the process. The next thing is you again have to invite customers into your process at all times, stress that. And then the other thing is, if you're not failing, you're not innovating. We talked a little bit about failure earlier. You gotta fail fast and early and keep failing until you get it right. And then the last thing is never stop learning, because it's just a process you go through. You don't have all the answers. You're going to learn all the time, but expand your knowledge, read, really get into what you're doing, and approach it with passion. So I'll kind of go into a couple things. I see a lot of opportunity for Minnesota, and especially in the high-tech space. So I'm very, as you know, passionate about high-tech. But I see so many really amazing areas, and I would just love to see a place like Bemidji with a great college here, so much young and fresh and vibrant talent tackling some of these problems, because these are problems that I think Minnesota can really solve, and better than Silicon Valley, actually. I see human-computer interaction as a huge opportunity for Minnesota, because you have Mayo Clinic, you have a med tech background here, and we're now starting to blur the lines between computing and brains. There's a lot of study going on right now with the human brain and how we can start interacting in this digital world with just our minds, and getting rid of the computer altogether. So these are realities that will be, probably within our lifetime that are happening right now. The other thing is we're now at a point where computing is really advancing. We have artificial intelligence, which is grossly misunderstood, but I see so many amazing things happening in that area, and I think it's a great thing for Minnesota, because we have Cray computers here in Minnesota, so there's already a computing background in this state. I really love what's happening with virtual reality, and it's only going to get better. And if you haven't tried it yet, it's awesome, and there's just so many opportunities in that field for Minnesota with the software developers that are here. Big data is an area that we're actually doing some work in, and artificial intelligence, but IBM Watson. IBM actually has their first Watson down in Rochester, Minnesota, although the IBM facility is slowly moving out, but a lot of that was developed here in Minnesota, and most people don't know that, but some really cool stuff happening in that space. This is another area I really am interested in, is nanotechnology and IoT. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the Internet of Things, but it's basically the interconnectedness of all of the things from your home to your car, where everything is just enabled by the internet. in the next couple years, every single person in this room will be impacted by IoT. And the first thing is, the gateway is Alexa. So how many people here have Alexa, by the way? Nobody? So on. So really this digital assistant that you can talk to that can control everything in your house. So I have friends down in the cities now where their whole entire house is automated just by voice command. So in any room they go, they can talk and turn on lights, turn off lights, start the coffee pot in the morning from the bedroom, all enabled just by voice and AI. So really cool stuff. Another area that is really interesting and where I see a lot of, in fact, down in Brainerd, there's some folks working on robotics. There's a lot of really neat things happening with robots, and just given the engineering capabilities of the great north up here, I mean, you've got Arctic Cat, you have so many great engineers that are floating around this community. You know, I don't know why there's not a big robotic company up here, because what a great thing to have up here. And then, you know, I'll kind of end with it, you know, with all those markets, we really have vast markets, vast need, vast opportunity, and so few startups. It's, I mean, the most remarkable thing to me is I see all this opportunity and I just see so few people going after them. And I look at communities like this up here, and there should be no reason why all these fields aren't being developed right here in Bemidji, and you know, and I hope that will come, because I'm seeing it happen in Fargo. But it all starts with an idea. It all starts with one of you, and it just starts with doing it. And then next thing you know, it's a big company. So anyway, parting thoughts, just to wrap up. You know, take risks in your life right now, because time is fleeting and it goes very fast. And you know, you really have to follow your dreams in life. And the other thing I would say is, you know, find your passions and follow them. If you're starting a business that is something that you don't really like, but you think it's going to make money, you're not going to be successful, because wherever you follow your heart is where success lies, always. And, you know, start your business now. I mean, for those of you in the room that are thinking about it, why not today? You know, do it. Just start today. And then for me, innovation is a daily routine. Anytime I have an aha moment, I don't want to tell you where I got the idea for my shredding and spreading of data. I'll let you use your imagination, but you know, those aha moments come anywhere in the weirdest of places, and you just have to be prepared when it comes. You know, again, find a big problem to solve, marry the market, not the technology, and then last thing is make the world a better place. So I will end on this. Don't ever quit until you get the cheese. So any questions? I want to make this more about you.
Questions for Daren?
How do you get all the marketing aspect of your many areas of expertise? How do you get them out there?
Well, that's actually what's so incredible about the world we live in today. So if I would have been doing this, you know, 20, 30, 40 years ago, marketing would have been really hard. I would have had to, you know, spend a lot of money, radio, television, because you have the television industrial complex that you would have to deal with. But now what's so great is you have the internet, you have social media, you have this interconnectedness of people digitally now. So you can take an idea, and if you package it correctly, it can spread instantaneously to thousands of people. I mean, it's amazing. To give you just an example of that, we launched our first app with Microsoft, and we have over 50,000 people, and I haven't talked to one of them. I mean, it's just that fast. So the power of the internet right now and being able to interconnect with people is, it's just really transformative. And the key is understanding how to make your message resonate, stand out from other people, so it can go viral and that people can pass it on. So that's kind of what we do. Yeah. And it's free.
Yeah.
Best marketing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried to get one of your cooling systems, one of your demo racks into a data center in Singapore? It's the most expensive place to do data centers? 'Cause the heat.
You know, we're trying to go down that route right now, so, you know, it gets a little tricky going overseas because you have to deal with manufacturing and then import-export laws, ITAR with the government. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you gotta go through to do that. It's a huge market that we wanna go into, for
Well,
sure.
when you get to Singapore with one of your data centers, you can tell them that Bemidji is alternative, but
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Here that they don't
free
need-
cooling right here.
so they'll just have really high latency.
Yeah, right.
Are those cooling racks available now?
Yeah, so we develop all different types of embodiments of our cooling, so we have different shapes, form factors, but yeah, all those products are available in the market today, and yeah. So if you want to submerge racks, say go.
How many people do you have on your software engineering team or application development team?
Yeah, so what's really cool with all the tools that we have, so to accomplish what we've accomplished at Secured 2, you know, if I would have built this company a few years ago, we probably would have needed, you know, 20, 50, maybe even 100 developers to do what we've done. But because of a lot of the way the tools are made now, because of the cloud, and so much of that infrastructure, I can just, you know, lease basically through like Azure, you know, Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services. Really, we've had 4 people, myself and 3 other people, that have developed all the core technology. So we haven't really needed that many people, which is really great. And that's why, you know, small, very focused teams are deadly. I mean, I'll take a small team of guys that work 24/7 versus a massive team, you know, of 50. I know we could, as a small team of 4 people, outdo 20 people. And it's just because of the focus and the interactions and how quickly and how well we work together. You know, it's kind of the way I would liken it is in software, a 4-man band can make beautiful music versus an orchestra without a conductor. And that's what very large development shops are. You've got a huge orchestra, nobody knows what they're playing, and it becomes a mess and it doesn't sound good. But 4 people can really create some amazing music. So that's how I look at software.
Can you talk a little bit about the mindset of don't quit as an entrepreneur versus fail fast? Because you hear those 2 things a lot. Like, is there a gut check that you do? Like, how do you know if something's really challenging and you shouldn't quit, or is it something that should fail fast?
Yeah, I mean so what you have to do is you have to have a broad vision. So the vision has to be like I'll just give an example of Secured 2. We had a big vision of securing the world, right? So that's a very broad vision. That was our focus as a company. How do we secure the world? Well, to get there, there's all these things that you have to do to get there, right? And each one of those things are failure points. Like you go down a direction, and the best, you know, I'll liken how we failed fast early. We had this idea of, well, okay, the shrink shred's secure, but all of a sudden we realized, well, wait a minute, we have a gaping hole on the front door. I mean, somebody can break through the front door, even though we secure everything in the house, you could still break in the front door because we need to have better verification technology on the front end, right? So that was an early failure. We thought, well, geez, we're so secure, but then all of a sudden here's this massive weak point that we had to figure out how to fix on the front side, right? So it's understanding, you know, what you have, what the problem is, what your long-term vision or goal is, and knowing that along the way, as you're developing, you're gonna go down a direction that maybe doesn't work, and you just have to, you know, recalibrate, go back, start over, try to find a new path to get to where it is that you want to go. But as long as you have that broader vision of where you want to take yourself and your company, that will correct those failures, if that makes sense.
So what I'm hearing is, like, as long as you have the vision, you can figure out different paths to get to that vision.
Exactly.
Because there could be
That's it.
failures along the way.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions?
You
for
said
you?
that way better than I did.
I love it. You did a good job. explaining it. Because I've heard that, don't quit, but fail fast. Like, how does that work together? So thanks for addressing that. I love the high-tech technology and seeing the LiquidCool and the robotics, and I love this. This is so cool. Any other high-tech nerds in the room?
Well, I'd love to hear just some of the businesses that you guys have, and just hear about some of the stuff you're working on, and maybe, you know, things that might be a little.
Yeah.
Erica and I actually have a big announcement today. We both of us did presentations this fall, within a month or so, and we developed a collaboration. And next week, we are actually going to be rolling out a product and having an open house out at the mall. We coined a term, you know, when I was doing my presentation called Picasso Lived in My House. And we have been digitizing children's art. We have produced some beautiful hardcover books that people will be able to purchase before Christmas for grandmas and grandpas and things like that. And if you want to know a little bit more about it, we've got some cards and things with us today, and we'll have a little bit more to say next Wednesday because that's our big day for a rollout.
Awesome.
So,
Congratulations.
and really, Erica is the one that I had some ideas, but they were very raw, and what's one of the things that the group told me was I had too many ideas and I need to pick one. And thanks to Erica, we picked one, and her lovely assistant Betty, and there's just 3 of us. I think there is a 4th though, so we're your 4-team example, and we've got a passion for this, and we've shown our book to a few little people, and we got a lot of excitement going, and we'll have a little bit more to say next Wednesday. But think ahead, next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, everybody should be at Kirby Photography, and it'll be a big deal.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm about to take a leap here it'll probably be happening in the spring. I own an old-fashioned meat market, and currently there's only one way to get your meat. It has to be through an inspected facility if you're gonna sell it to the public. And you know, so basically it's big huge processing plants in the central part of the U.S. that has to do that. Well, there's a mobile processing unit that you can take out to the farm and cut out all 5 middlemen. And I'll be rolling that out in the spring. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is there's different marketplaces that take place. There's niche market, and there's you know, your mainstream market, you know, that you'll see in most you know, grocery stores and common products that you see out there. You know, one thing that I struggle with, I want to keep everybody in the loop so I don't lose any of those markets. And one way I saw is developing a marketplace for both our common market that we'll be using in most of our products, as well as keeping the niche growers and customers involved. And one thing that I thought, you know, was, you know, developing almost like a marketplace for everybody that runs through our production systems. So basically, whatever we have in our daily schedule for our common product that we're going to be using will self-schedule through a marketplace between niche growers and customers. And that's what I was going to talk to you afterwards about, is maybe a few ideas on how to accomplish that, because this is first to market idea, and that's one of the roadblocks well, it's not really a roadblock, but it's one of the issues that we need to take care of as we go.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, you bring up I think a really good problem, and this is one that every company has, is you have to understand how people buy. because understanding how people buy today and being able to take your idea and place it on top of that pathway to revenue, I think is really key for what you're doing, and also making something simple. You know, people, and I just learned this the hard way, people like easy. and if you can make it really easy to do what you do and make it easy to buy for all those, you know, all your customers, it'll just accelerate your business so fast. And the other problem is then how do you get the word out to all those people? Well, if you make it so easy for them and you have a very clear pathway to get to them, suddenly, next thing you know, you're going to have more business than you know what to deal with, because you've just made something that was maybe hard, easy, and in a way that they can just go, oh wow, why haven't we been doing this?
This is where this idea of this marketplace is to self-schedule our process, and you know, because that's, you know, logistics of everything is one of the big hurdles, and you know, basically it's a perishable item, so you can't carry every single, you know, type of product. You have to, you know, you have to find your right marketplaces for each little thing well in advance. So
Are you doing shipping and logistics too with that?
Yeah, it will be.
So what's really neat is there's also technology that you can interweave into this dashboard that you would create, because you can put sensors now on all the product, and so you can guarantee to your customers that it's been refrigerated from the time of whatever, so you can guarantee quality, and add more transparency, because I think one of the things that most, you know, if you're a retailer, or, you know, a grocery store or whatever, they're going to want to know that this is fresh, the date that it came, and then now they have a way to track that through your systems, from the point of origination to, point of shelf. And so, you know, that could be a really cool thing for you.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fantastic. With being close tonight, I want to make sure I wrap up the meeting here. But Daren, are you going to be sticking around a little bit?
I'm here for any questions.
Yeah, so feel free to hang around. Thank you for being here today. And before we leave, we always ask our presenter, what can Bemidji and our region do for you in supporting your business?
Spread the word. If anybody here wants to be secured.
But thanks everyone for being here. See you next week.